Definitely feel like that's what's coming through, is that a lot of us are needing to center ourselves. We're feeling imbalanced, that we are trying to do these things for ourselves, and move in different directions. I'm getting like packing up all your property and trying to go to a different location, kind of like an actual move, but this feels more like an emotional and mental move, versus like a physical move. We are trying to better ourselves in many different ways, including like possibly trying to take care of our health, body wise. But we are definitely falling to an imbalance. And we're needing to come back into centering ourselves and having that self honesty. And then also like listening to the self. Like, where am I imbalanced? We can't always grow in luxury, is what they're saying. So, like, yes, growth is important, but we can't have these unobtainable expectations put on ourselves. There are limitations and there are things that are like just a phase. Yeah, it feels like the things that we thought were gonna bring us harmony, we're definitely realizing was more of a phase. And that's that luxury, right? That vacation growth. We were hoping for this ideal version of self, and there's a part of us that is still stretching for that. But that particular bloom definitely feels out of reach, which is causing us to kind of feel a lot more imbalanced, as we're trying to draw ourselves back and pull back. We're definitely in a state of needing to fully process the self and ask ourselves, like, we need to ask ourselves, like, why that was so important. Why was that the ideal version of self? And now that we know that it is truly unobtainable, what do we need to do moving forward? What do we need to do with this new concept of self now that we know that it's disconnected? Again, that was a license plate. So they're definitely speaking to me through numerology right now, my guides. So that is coming through understanding, like, this ideal version that I had of myself is not something that I'm going to be able to obtain. And not allow that to be the imbalance that causes us to stop moving forward. It was a unattainable, I don't want to say fallacy, but it was something that it was the perfect you, the ideal perfect you. And when we release those levels of perfection and concepts of like where we think we need to be versus where we actually are, we might actually come into some more truth and vulnerability. What can I do with my foundational self to make sure that I develop in a way that I can create close to that ideal version that's more based on a reality? With the reality of the world that it is now, the reality of where I am now, where can I get close to that ideal? It's kind of like shoot for the stars, land on the moon. So we don't want to completely disregard that ideal version, just understanding that we're still going to grow, we're still going to bloom, and that we need to just slightly adjust the ideal version of self with a more durable foundation, and one that is more attached to this reality, this possibility. Okay, I'm gonna pull some cards on it. A lot of us are wanting all of the light and none of the dark, but we can't have shadow without light. We have to make sure that we are understanding that we need both aspects in order for there to be form, in order for there to be a cycle and life. In order for these realms to exist, there has to be that balance, that cycle. So they're talking about the dimming of light with this. So this one is fortune and fame. Fortune and fame. So fortune and fame is coming through. So this is what we were hoping for. And this is the 56, which I'm called to look at. So that is a challenging harmony. So again, like, this is what we were hoping for. And that's why we're feeling dimmed right now, is because we're not sure that we're going to get this. We really don't think that this is going to come through. That's not something that we now think is possible. That was the ideal self, was this very abundant fame and fortune type scenario, possibly even abundance as far as wealth, but like that version of you may not be the version that we are, and there's still a bloom and there's still a beautiful ideal self. It just might not be connected to that same ideal. Wastrels and vagabonds. Okay, that seems a little harsh, but I guess a wastrel is somebody that feels like a waste of space, or just a wasteful person or a wasteful existence. And then a vagabond is a person that can't hold down a home, or they move place to place often, or they can't hold employment, or they don't have a steady job. So this is like definitely being rough on ourselves on a collective level. A lot of us are feeling like the old systems that we had, they don't work. And again, and this is a lot of like what the readings have been. This is just a little harsh here. So we're feeling like this ideal version that we were hoping for was this, fortune and fame. We were hoping for all of this beautiful poetry to come through, and that's not what we got. Instead, we got the challenge of harmony. So we ended up with the wastrel and vagabond. So feeling like as we were trying to come into this fortune and fame, that was robbed from us, because we were feeling like we're just being moved place to place, that we don't have like a place that we really can call home, and then also feeling like we don't have like a steady employment, or employment that can bring in that fortune that we were hoping to one day. So this is challenging of the concept. So this is the beginning of changing a concept of self. So understanding that like I can't necessarily be the person that I wanted to be based on that ideal version, because that is not the reality we live in. We don't live in a reality where you can go from poverty all the way to being a trillionaire. And it's not possible. And I think that a lot of us like were fed that pipe dream, and now we're coming into understanding like that's a I don't know, a luxury ideal, right? Oh, we all want to be a trillionaire one day, a billionaire. Oh, millionaire would be nice. Like, I'm not asking for too much. But realizing that is not the reality that a lot of us are in. Most of us are not in that reality. We cannot come into that. So this is causing restoration of life. So it's causing us to come into a harmony foundation. So we talked about that, like creating a new foundation. So this is the trying to understand that true foundation. So like we know that this isn't gonna happen. This is the real reality of it. Then we have to develop a foundation that works, so that way we can ultimately come into the ideal version, knowing that like, okay, if that's not what it is, then what is it? Let's define our reality so we can come into understanding what is the foundation that I am on, so that way I can shoot from the stars, from the real foundation. The concept of what I was told the world was isn't what it was. It's not like if you work hard, then you earn $1 million. Like that is not the reality. So if we know what the true reality is, and we release those concepts, then what is the true foundation so I can develop my ideal self? Divine comfort. So this is trying to find your divine connections. So trying to find the spiritual self. So this is to say that like we're not necessarily looking for the material comforts anymore. We're finding them in a divine way. So this is coming to this spiritual shoot for the stars, ideal version of like self-growth, emotional growth, and then coming into the ideal version being the most enlightened self. So going within versus finding that external ideal. So because everybody wanted to be the millionaire, right? But we know that that's not something that can happen. So instead, we're realizing that we can come into this ideal version, the one that comes into the best version of self. that inner abundance versus the external abundance. I'm trying to see if there's any more cards coming through here. Okay, so yeah, this one's about the inside. They're talking about coming into the inside of you and that driving force. This is really interesting because I call this my anxiety deck. So we'll see what it has to say about that inner drive. Oop, we got 2 cards coming forward. So these are the cards coming through. So too many dings, not enough peace. Fragmented focus and tech burnout. So we're coming into a lot of distractions, and that's why we're having a hard time finding this particular path. We have to be developing this foundation. We need to be coming into this inner strength and growth, but we're distracted currently. And then this one is dodging growth like it's homework, fear of change, and comfort zone. So what were we just saying? So a lot of this is we're still trying to find those comfort zones in the external. So that's why we're playing on our phones, like we're avoiding the inner growth, and we're struggling with distraction, a lot of distraction right now. So it's just saying, like, in order to build this foundation, we need to release these concepts so that way we can really come into some major growth. Okay. My kids are coming. Let me go ahead and pull one more card, and then that'll be it. Oh, and they're talking about this being the light. That inner light. Let this be the light. Nature's lessons. Nature's a mirror, reflecting truths about existence and your own nature. Spend time in it. So make sure that you're stepping outside and trying to find those real foundations to reality, because the answers are in nature, not in the paradigms of conditioning. All right, guys, bless is here. Bye.